Okinawa has more people living past 100 than almost anywhere else on Earth, and one of their quietest secrets isn't a supplement or a pill. It's what they sip between meals, and after 60, it could be the difference between joints that move easy in the morning and the stiffness, the cracking knees, and the achy hands you've been chalking up to just getting old. A 68-year-old man sat across from me last spring, popping the same ibuprofen he'd taken for a decade, still stiff, still slow to get out of a chair, still dreading stairs. Here's what surprised him. Joint stiffness after 60 usually isn't really about wear and tear at all. It's about low-grade inflammation quietly building in the background, year after year, until your joints feel it every single morning. The good news is that inflammation responds to what you put in your body, and the villages of Okinawa figured this out generations before anyone had a word for inflammatory markers. They never treated joint pain as something you just live with. They drank specific things daily that calm inflammation at the source, and the difference shows up in how they move well into their 90s and 100s. I had that man try 6 of these Okinawan drinks, changed nothing else about his routine. 6 weeks later, he told me he stood up from his recliner without wincing for the first time in years. These 6 drinks work by calming the inflammation driving your joint pain, not just masking it for a few hours like a pill does. Stick around for number 1, because it's the one Okinawan elders drink with almost every single meal, and it might be the simplest habit on this entire list. Every ingredient here is something you can find at a regular grocery store or Asian market. Before we start, tell me who's with me, your age, and where you're watching from, down in the comments. I read every one. Let's start with number 6, a spice-based drink that's been used on the island for centuries to keep joints loose. Number 6, Okin water, Okinawan turmeric-ginger tea. Okin is the Okinawan word for turmeric, and on this island turmeric isn't just a spice you sprinkle into curry. It's grown, dried, and brewed into tea almost daily in many households, especially by older residents managing joint discomfort. The reason comes down to a compound called curcumin, which gives turmeric its deep golden color and is one of the most researched natural anti-inflammatory compounds in existence. Here's why that matters for your joint specifically. When cartilage wears down or a joint is irritated, your body releases inflammatory signaling molecules that make the area swollen, stiff, and painful. Curcumin works by interfering with several of those same inflammatory pathways. Clinical trials comparing curcumin extracts to common over-the-counter pain relievers for knee osteoarthritis have found comparable improvements in pain and stiffness scores over several weeks, without the stomach and kidney strain that comes with long-term NSAID use. Researchers believe curcumin also helps protect the cartilage itself from further inflammatory damage over time, not just the pain you feel from it. To make Okin water, simmer 1 teaspoon of ground turmeric, or a thumb-sized piece of fresh turmeric root sliced thin in 2 cups of water for about 10 minutes. Add a few slices of fresh ginger for the last 3 minutes, since ginger contains its own anti-inflammatory compound called gingerol that works alongside curcumin. Strain it and add a small pinch of black pepper before drinking. That last step actually matters. Black pepper contains piperine, which dramatically increases how much curcumin your body actually absorbs, since curcumin on its own is poorly absorbed. Without the pepper, most of it simply passes through you unused. Okinawan elders drink this warm in the morning, often before their first meal. One important note: turmeric in meaningful daily amounts can interact with blood thinners, so if you're on that kind of medication, check with your doctor before making this a daily habit. For everyone else, give it 3 to 4 weeks before judging the results. Cartilage-level inflammation doesn't calm down overnight. Number 5, Shikuwasa water, Okinawan citrus water. Shikuwasa is a small, intensely sour citrus fruit that grows almost nowhere else in the world outside this island, and Okinawans have been squeezing it into water for generations. What makes it stand out isn't just the vitamin C, it's a flavonoid compound called nobiletin that's found in unusually high concentrations in Shikuwasa peel and juice. Nobiletin has drawn real interest from researchers studying joint and metabolic health because of how it behaves inside the body. Laboratory and animal research on nobiletin has shown it can suppress the same inflammatory enzymes that flare up in arthritic joints, and some of that research suggests it may help slow the breakdown of cartilage tissue, which is exactly what you want to protect as you get older. There's also early human research linking regular citrus flavonoid intake to lower markers of systemic inflammation in older adults. To prepare Shikuwasa water, if you can find bottled Shikuwasa juice at an Asian grocery store, mix 2 tablespoons into a full glass of water. If you can't find it, a reasonable substitute is fresh lime or a mix of lime and mandarin orange, since they share some of the same flavonoid family, though Shikuwasa remains the most concentrated source. Squeeze it fresh rather than using a shelf-stable bottled juice loaded with added sugar, since sugar itself promotes the kind of inflammation you're trying to calm down. Okinawans drink this diluted with water throughout the day rather than all at once, keeping a steady trickle of these compounds in the bloodstream instead of one big spike. Try it after lunch and again in the late afternoon, and give it a few weeks before you expect to notice your fingers or knees feeling looser. Number 4. Goya water, bitter melon infusion. Goya, or bitter melon, is probably the single most iconic vegetable on the island, showing up in the famous stir-fry Goya champuru that almost every Okinawan household makes. It's intensely bitter, and that bitterness comes from compounds called momorticosides and cucurbitane-type triterpenoids, which is a mouthful, but what matters is what they do. These compounds have been studied for their ability to calm oxidative stress in the body, and oxidative stress is one of the quiet drivers of joint inflammation, alongside the immune-signaling inflammation curcumin targets. Think of oxidative stress as background wear on your cells caused by unstable molecules called free radicals, and Goya is unusually rich in antioxidants that help mop those up before they damage joint tissue. Goya is also one of the very few foods that's genuinely low in sugar and calories while being dense in vitamin C, which your body needs to build and repair the collagen that makes up your cartilage and connective tissue. To make Goya water, slice half a fresh bitter melon, scoop out the seeds and white pith, which is where most of the bitterness concentrates, and simmer the slices in 3 cups of water for about 15 minutes. Strain and drink it warm, or refrigerate it and drink it cold, which many people find easier to tolerate. If the bitterness is too intense at first, a small squeeze of the Shikuwasa or lime juice from the previous trick actually balances it out nicely and stacks the benefits of both. 1 cup a day is the traditional amount. If you're on medication for blood sugar, mention this one to your doctor, since bitter melon can have a mild effect on blood glucose levels. Number 3. Mozuku water, seaweed infusion. Mozuku is a thin, stringy brown seaweed that Okinawans eat almost daily, often simply dressed with a splash of vinegar, and it happens to be one of the richest natural sources of a compound called fucoidan. Fucoidan has become a serious subject of joint health research over the past 2 decades, mostly because of how it behaves in and around cartilage tissue. Studies on fucoidan have found it can help calm the same inflammatory cascade that breaks down cartilage and osteoarthritis, and some research suggests it may support the body's own repair processes in joint tissue, functioning almost like a signal that tells inflamed areas to settle down. Mozuku is also naturally slippery and mucilaginous, similar to okra, and that texture actually comes from soluble fibers that support gut health, which researchers increasingly link to inflammation levels throughout the rest of the body. To make Mozuku water, look for dried or vinegar-packed Mozuku at an Asian grocery store. For the dried version, rehydrate a small handful in warm water for about 5 minutes, then simmer it gently in 2 cups of water for 10 minutes with a thin slice of ginger. Strain, or leave the seaweed in and drink it as a light broth, which is closer to how it's traditionally consumed on the island. If dried Mozuku isn't available near you, kombu or wakame are reasonable substitutes, since they belong to the same brown seaweed family and share some of the same beneficial compounds, though at somewhat lower concentrations. As with any seaweed, if you have a thyroid condition, talk to your doctor first, since seaweed is naturally high in iodine. Number 2. Sencha shiocha, salted green tea. This one surprises people. In parts of Okinawa, green tea is traditionally served with a small pinch of salt stirred in rather than plain, a custom that goes back to when the island's climate made mineral loss through sweat a daily concern. The tea itself is where the real joint benefit comes from. Green tea is loaded with catechins, particularly one called EGCG, which has been studied extensively for its ability to interrupt the inflammatory signaling that damages cartilage over time. Research on EGCG and joint health has found it may help protect cartilage cells from the kind of oxidative damage that accelerates osteoarthritis, and regular green tea drinkers in several population studies show lower markers of systemic inflammation than non-drinkers. A small pinch of salt isn't there for flavor tricks. It's there because sodium and the trace minerals in unrefined salt help your body actually retain and use some of the electrolytes that support muscle and joint function, especially if you're active during the day. To make it, brew sencha green tea as you normally would, around 175 degrees Fahrenheit rather than boiling, since very hot water breaks down some of the catechins. Steep for 2 to 3 minutes, then stir in the smallest pinch of salt you can manage, just enough to round out the flavor rather than taste salty. Okinawans drink this in the morning and again in the mid-afternoon. Since green tea contains caffeine, avoid it in the evening if you're sensitive. Number 1. Kachuyu, bonito-broth water. This is the one Okinawan elders drink almost daily, and it's the simplest thing on this entire list. Kachuyu is a light broth made from katsuobushi, dried and shaved bonito fish flakes, steeped in hot water, sometimes with a splash of soy sauce or a few slices of ginger. What makes it so valuable for your joints is what's actually in the fish itself. Bonito is rich in omega-3 fatty acids, the same family of fats found in salmon and sardines, which have some of the strongest research behind them for reducing joint inflammation of anything on this list. Omega-3s work by shifting the balance of inflammatory compounds your body produces, nudging it toward the calmer, less inflammatory pathway instead of the one that keeps joints swollen and achy. Bonito also naturally contains collagen-supporting amino acids like glycine and proline, the same building blocks your body needs to maintain healthy cartilage and connective tissue as you age. To make kachuyu, steep a small handful of dried bonito flakes in a cup of hot, not boiling, water for about 2 minutes, then strain out the flakes or leave them in for extra flavor and nutrients. A few drops of soy sauce and a thin slice of fresh ginger finish it off. This is traditionally sipped alongside meals rather than on an empty stomach, which is part of why it's so easy to build into a daily habit. Have a cup with lunch and another with dinner. If you don't eat fish, a light vegetable or mushroom dashi broth with a small fish oil supplement is a reasonable stand-in, though you'll be missing some of the naturally occurring compounds unique to bonito itself. And there you have it. 6 drinks from one of the longest living populations on the planet that can help calm the inflammation actually driving your joint pain, not just numb it for a few hours. You don't need to start all 6 at once. Pick the one that sounds easiest to fit into tomorrow morning, stick with it for a few weeks, and build from there. Your knees, hands, and hips will tell you when it's working. If this helped you understand your joint pain a little differently, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. Thanks for watching.